buck stops here. Who's responsible for nursing home abuse and neglect? The nursing home and its owners are responsible for what happens under their roof. They have a federal obligation to make sure that all the laws, the rules, the policies and procedures are being followed. Sometimes when abuse and neglect occurs, they're more interested in how much money they're taking in rather than how they're staffing the home, training that staff, overseeing that staff, and making sure the residents are being well taken care of at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So who's responsible when abuse and neglect occurs? The home is responsible. Most nursing homes have insurance that covers them in the event of negligence. That's not abuse. Abuse is a direct action meant to hurt somebody. Often there is no insurance for that. But for negligence, too many falls, bed sores that should not have occurred, malnutrition, lack of hydration, medication errors, medication thefts, things like that, the nursing home is responsible. Generally speaking, in Iowa, an employer is responsible for the actions of the employee if whatever they were doing was within the scope of their employment. In a nursing home, what that means is that if a CNA or a nurse are taking care of a resident consistent with their job and what they're supposed to do, the boss is responsible if they don't do it correctly. If someone is doing something completely beyond the scope of their duty, arguably, a nursing home might say, "I'm not responsible." For instance, abuse. If an aide or a nurse is directly abusing your loved one, a nursing home might try to claim that they're not responsible. That's not within the scope of their employment. They were not hired to abuse somebody. However, often that abuse comes because they didn't properly screen that person before they hired them, they didn't properly train them when they arrived at the facility, or they didn't properly supervise them when they were at the facility. So most employers are not able to skirt their responsibility simply because somebody didn't do their job correctly. An employer generally is responsible for what an employee does. The way that you deal with these situations is first and foremost, you make sure your loved one is safe. If you have to call 911, you call 911. If you have to move them out of the facility before you make a complaint because you're concerned how the home will respond to them, then make that happen. But once your loved one is safe, you need to make a complaint. Start with the administrator and the director of nursing. Document your complaint. Make sure it's decent and respectful, but lays out your concerns. And you should immediately contact a nursing home neglect and abuse attorney who's familiar with how these cases work. They're difficult cases, the laws are complicated, the process can be difficult itself. You need to call an experienced lawyer who's handled nursing home trials. If you have questions about how this relates to your case, be sure to call RSH Legal, 1-800-433-0283, Fighting for Fairness.